Hi and welcome to the Malat Cookery channel. So the family meal for this evening is on a Chinese theme. One of my all-time favourite dishes is crispy chili beef with noodles. So I thought I'd get the video camera out and show you guys how I make that. The spice blend from the Malat range, which we're going to be using today, is Chinese salt and pepper seasoning. So as usual, a full list of ingredients will be given at the end of the video, so let's have a look at those ingredients and what we're going to need for today. So what we'll do is we'll take the ingredients in two steps. We've got the meat preparation here, and then we'll do the sauce, the stir fry and the noodles for the second step. So here we have 300 grams of beef which has been thinly sliced. Use the best quality beef you can. This is actually thinly sliced rump steak. Use sirloin steak if you can afford it. We've got 1 tablespoon of dark soya sauce. So what we're trying to do here with the soya sauce is colour the actual meat itself, but also dark soya sauce has molasses or sugar as one of the ingredients, and we're hoping to try and caramelise the outside of the meat a little bit when it goes into the hot oil. So 1 tablespoon of dark soya sauce, 1 tablespoon of chili and garlic sauce. Now this is the type of brand that I prefer, the Lee Kum Kee brand. I think it's really nice. Just get yourself a good quality chili garlic sauce. Don't buy the stuff from the supermarket, the local supermarket. If it's their own brand, go to a Chinese wholesaler or supermarket to buy it. And I've also got 150 grams of plain flour. So first thing to do is the meat preparation. So in a large bowl, just place the chili and garlic sauce and the dark soy sauce together. And just mix that in. Then we add the meat and just make sure that this is well coated. So once we've got that well coated, what I'm going to do now is place some cling film or food wrap over the top of this, put it into the fridge for a minimum of 2 hours. Overnight would be even better, but we haven't got that luxury. So this is going to go in the fridge for 2 hours. While that's in the fridge, we can then prepare the actual sauce, which we're going to do next. So the second part of the ingredients is for the sauce, the stir fry and also the noodles. So we're going to need 2 tablespoons of light soya sauce. So the light soya sauce in this instance is being used as a seasoning because it contains salt. So 2 tablespoons of light soya sauce, half a teaspoon of pepper. This is black pepper, but if you want to be authentic, use white pepper. We've got 1 teaspoon of the Malat Chinese salt and pepper seasoning, 1 teaspoon of corn flour. We've got 4 tablespoons of white wine. This is a dry white wine. 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of sweet chili sauce, about 400 grams of dried noodles, good quality dried noodles. We need some oil for frying, and I've got here a Chinese stir fry pack just for convenience, but there's about 300 grams in weight. Now you can use any vegetables you want. As I said, I just use these ready-made packs for convenience. The next thing we need to do while the meat is marinating in the fridge is just to combine all of the ingredients for the sauce. The only thing is just leave the corn flour till last. So once all those ingredients are combined, we just leave this now in the fridge covered until we need it. So the next thing to do once the meat has been marinating for at least a couple of hours is to actually coat it in the flour. Now if this was a traditional Chinese recipe, this wouldn't be plain flour, it would actually be cornstarch. But we're just looking at what we've got in the house and also cost effectiveness as well, because it'd be quite expensive if we use cornstarch. So 150 grams of plain flour, place the meat into the flour, and what we're going to do is we're just going to coat the actual marinated meat in the flour and also separate it, so make sure it's in individual pieces. So once we've got all of the meat coated and it's actually separated, the next thing to do is we're now going to fry this in hot oil. So we're just getting the oil up to temperature now. We've got about 10 tablespoons of oil in the wok, so that's quite a lot of oil. I've also got a clean bowl, so once we've fried the beef in the oil, we're going to reserve that into a clean bowl, keep it warm, and then go on to the next stage, which will be the stir fry. And to get the meat out, I've also got a slotted spoon, so make sure you've got those handy first. So we bring the oil up to temperature, and we're going to be frying these off in 2 batches. So once the beef is done on one side, we just want to turn this over and then fry on the other. So we're literally looking at just a couple of minutes on either side, and then once these are cooked, as I said, reserve them in a clean bowl, keep them warm. Let the oil come back up to temperature before we add the second batch. So before we go on to doing the stir fry, we want to clean the wok out thoroughly, but this gives us an opportunity now to actually prep the noodles. So preparing the noodles is really easy. These are easy cook noodles, so they just require boiling water to be poured over them for 2 to 3 minutes. Just check on the packet what your prep is for the noodles that you've got. So we just pour over some boiling water. I've just broken these noodles down from the square blocks before I put the water on, because it just makes it easier when we're stir frying with the noodles that they're broken down a bit, so that the vegetables actually mix in with the noodles. If I kept them in long strands, it's just a little bit more difficult to combine the stir fried veg with the noodles. So I'm just going to leave these to stand now for 2 to 3 minutes, and that I'm going to drain them then, and then they'll be ready to go into the stir fry. So we've got about 4 tablespoons of oil in the wok. We're just bringing that up to temperature now. It's a different cooking technique in a domestic kitchen to the one that you see in a commercial Chinese kitchen. So whereas with a commercial Chinese kitchen you have a lot of heat at your disposal with regard to the flame intensity of a commercial range, in a domestic kitchen on a standard cooker you don't have anywhere near the same energy that the Chinese restaurant has. So we need a different cooking technique for being able to capture a lot of the flavour that comes from cooking in a hot wok. And they reckon over 50% of the flavour of Chinese takeaway and restaurant food actually comes from the heat of the wok. So the oil is now up to temperature. We place in the stir fry. And the cooking technique we're going to use here to try and capture as much of this heat as possible is not to mix the vegetables up or the meat up constantly, but is actually to push the food out to the sides of the wok so that as much of the food is in contact with the wok surface area as possible. So we leave this now for a minute or two, and then we're going to turn the veg over, push it out to the sides again, and keep doing that until it's cooked. So the veg has been in contact with the outer surface area of the wok for about 2 minutes. So all I want to do now is just turn it over. And then push it back out to the sides again. So I don't know if you can see there, but we're actually getting some colour to the vegetables from the actual wok. If I was constantly turning this veg over, which is obviously what you see on the YouTube channels and what you imagine to happen in a Chinese restaurant, we wouldn't get any of that because we just haven't got the same intensity of heat that they have from a commercial kitchen. So this stir fry is now cooked. I'm just going to reserve this to one side, keep it warm, quickly fry the noodles and then bring everything back together. So a couple of tablespoons of oil again, get it back up to temperature. So these are our drained noodles. Again, exactly the same technique. We're going to push the noodles out to the edge of the wok. Get as much of the noodles in contact with that hot wok surface as possible. Leave it for about a minute and then turn them over, and we'll probably do that 2 to 3 times. So when we start to see some colour in the noodles, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but we're starting to get some colour within these noodles. That's when we know the noodles are fried. So we then return the warm stir fry to the wok and then mix that in. And it'll be a lot easier to mix the vegetables in because we've broken up the noodles before we actually put the hot water over them. The next thing I want to do is just add a little bit of water from the kettle. Not too much. And we do that before we add our sauce mix. So the corn flour within the sauce is going to thicken up nicely. The smell is absolutely fantastic. So we can add a tiny bit more water if we need to. And then finally we want to add the fried beef. Right, so everything's now mixed in. We're just going to leave this for a couple of minutes to actually warm through, and then it's ready to serve. So that's it, crispy chili beef with noodles. I can't stress enough the importance of the cooking technique used for, or should be used for, domestic kitchens when it comes to Chinese food, and that is to push whatever you're cooking to the outside of the wok and leave it there to actually cook, you will not get the same taste intensity that you get from a Chinese restaurant or takeaway if you don't use that technique. If you're constantly mixing the food around the wok, which is what you imagine to happen within a Chinese restaurant, then you'll never get the same depth of flavour that those guys get. So push it all to the outside of the wok, get that intensity of heat into the food, and you'll see when you do it yourself that although the food smells nice, all of a sudden the aroma changes and it starts to smell like takeaway or restaurant Chinese food, and that's when you know that it's cooking properly. So if you take nothing else away from this video, please have a go at doing that technique and you'll see there's a massive difference. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you've enjoyed the video, as usual, hit the like button. So thanks for watching.